For the first time in ages, we finally have an Assassin's Creed game that actually rewards exploration and discovery. There are a ton of new and returning systems to the game that provide some really interesting gameplay loops. There's a ton that the game doesn't actually really give you a chance to test out because there is actually something new every time you turn around the corner. So in this beginner's guide, I'm going to be giving you the best tips without any spoilers that'll help you understand this new open world that you can explore, to help you find legendaries, improve your combat experience, and plenty of tips for new and returning players as you dive into this open world in feudal Japan. The first thing we're going to cover is tips to improve your open world exploration. This map is absolutely massive. There are new surprises around every corner, and you can miss out on not only a ton of side quests, but legendaries and other ways of making money if you aren't paying attention. Now, one of the first things that you'll notice is viewpoints work a little bit different. Obviously, they still act as a fast travel option, but you'll notice that my map isn't getting filled up with icons like it typically would in previous Assassin's Creeds. When you go to these viewpoints, you're still going to need to observe your surroundings. It'll point out other viewpoints for you, but also undiscovered locations. Now, these undiscovered locations could be castles like this one over here, it could be shrines like down here, or potentially other enemy camps, which can also double as shrines or temples. Temples are going to be providing you with knowledge points, castles will provide legendary loot, and enemy encampments can potentially provide you with a lot of wealth, among being points of interest for many side quests. Now, you'll notice these points of interest that are kind of in these mountainous areas. If you look at your map, you'll see that there are plenty of roads, but just like feudal Japan, you're going to have many of these physical barriers that are mountains in heavily wooded areas. These can be incredibly difficult to traverse, and I very much recommend sticking to the roads as much as possible, and there's multiple reasons for this. One, climbing mountains can be incredibly frustrating, although possible if you really want to get a shortcut, but you may very well miss out on opportunities that you would otherwise find while keeping to the roads. These can include NPCs that can provide you with world rumors, pointing you in the direction of more side quests or even legendary chests. So while you're traveling along these roads, keep an eye out for NPCs that are along the side of the road. Some of them may be crying, they may be saying something out of the ordinary, or even shouting out for your help. If you go up to these NPCs and do the right thing, you can actually fail these interactions and get nothing out of it. I won't spoil that for you, but it can happen. You can have them provide you intel or world rumors. Intel will refill one of your scout slots. World rumors can potentially point you in the direction of side quests, which will unlock a whole new chain of events for you to discover, or other areas of interest. Now, when you're exploring the mountains for these undiscovered locations, you're going to want to be making sure to use your focus. Oftentimes at these undiscovered locations, you can find legendary chests or other chests worth high value items. It can also come in handy when exploring temples and shrines to be able to collect the lost pages or find the points of interest that you need to pray at to be able to get your knowledge points. Now, once you unlock the hideout, there's one very important building that you're going to want to upgrade first. There is actually so much you can do with this settlement system, and I will be doing a full video on this in the future. Mine is very basic right now, but one of the most important buildings, in my opinion, other than the forge, would be the Kagurega. You're going to want to not only build this, but then upgrade it to level 2 as soon as possible. This offers seasonal provincial rumors that reveal the locations of collectibles, unique treasures, and more. And from here, scouts can be assigned to clear regional alerts. Now, once you've upgraded this to level 2, you're going to want to go to one of your Kaguregas. I know I'm probably mispronouncing the name, I'm sorry. And inside of this, you're going to find this little box that says Browse Contracts. This is going to give you access to these incredibly easy farmable contracts for various items that you're going to need for upgrading your armor, as well as buildings within your hideout. But then more importantly, opportunities. Whenever you go to one of these Kaguregas, you're going to want to make sure you pick up all of the opportunities and contracts available. The opportunities will remain on your map permanently until you go discover them. Sometimes they'll just be vendors, other times they may be sites where you can get knowledge points, and if you're lucky, you can get legendary chests this way as well. Now, the contracts, on the other hand, should only be available for the current season. But the nice thing about accepting all of these various contracts is while you're exploring the open world, you can very quickly knock these out for various resources you're going to need for upgrading your armor or your hideout. All of these contracts are incredibly easy to do, so if you come across one, you might as well knock it out. Now, you'll notice at the top left, this says the Omi board. Any of these Kagurega sites inside of Omi will have the exact same opportunities as well as contracts. So within each region, this is the region of Omi, all of the Kagurega sites will have all of the same quests available. But that also means you can go to any other region that you have a Kagurega site in, fast travel to it, and be able to pick up new contracts or opportunities. You'll notice in this region of Yamashiro, I only have one opportunity left, which means after I complete this one, I won't have any more to find. On our Harima board, you can see that we have the option to find a legendary chest in a Kujikiri. Now, as the seasons change, all of these on every single board across all of the sites you have unlocked will refresh, allowing you to have new opportunities and new contracts. So I highly recommend using these as your main means of fast traveling so you can accept all of these contracts and opportunities, which will hopefully get you legendary chests to get some fantastic equipment. Now, if you're interested in different experiences of the game, you can go to gameplay and then go to difficulty tuning. In here, you can change both your combat and stealth difficulties. The stealth difficulty will drastically change the way the AI works for stealth. And if you're looking for a more difficult stealth experience with better AI, I recommend turning this to expert. On expert, the enemies are going to be significantly more cautious and can detect you faster, so you need to stay out of sight to stay undetected. And the crazy thing about this is even roofs are not safe. Normal is a pretty good combat difficulty if you're looking for a significantly harder challenge, especially if you plan on playing as Yasuke the entire time, or as much as possible. Maybe switching it to expert mode will give you a much more immersive combat experience because Yasuke is in general incredibly powerful, and on normal, I don't think I've ever had to use a ration. So if you do plan on playing as Yasuke more, then I recommend switching this combat difficulty to expert to have a little bit more challenging experience. One of the resources you also have to manage are your scouts. You're going to be able to smuggle resources, and this does cost 1 scout. And one of the best tips that I can provide is to utilize your scouts for smuggling resources rather than using them to find objectives. Like this assassination target we know is in Izumi Setsu, north of Amagasaki Castle. Now, if we wanted to, we could consume one of our scouts to be able to search this location, and you can apply more scouts to expand the search radius. Early game, this can come in handy, but once you know a few tricks, you really won't need to use these scouts. Now that we know the location, which is going to be north of this castle and loves to drink in an inn, all we gotta do is just go to this little area here. And if we use focus, we can see this blue dot on the map, which is going to be our target. So you really do not need to consume scouts for this if you don't want to. So I do think that it is much better to use your scouts for smuggling resources because you're going to need a ton of them for upgrading your hideout. And now you can see we have consumed one of our scouts and we're going to get 240 straw just from that one scout. And one of your main targets for smuggling are basically going to be at any castle. Inside of these castles, you will find various locations that have these smuggling barrels. The ones with the most valuable smuggling resources are going to be locked behind these doors that require a key to open, which you can also see while using focus. They'll show up as gold and with like a little key icon to be able to get them. These are much better. So if we smuggle this resource here, we can see that now we're going to get 180 wood as well. Sometimes you can get metal and various other resources this way too. Now you can also refill these scouts. It's going to be 200 normally, and if you upgrade your Kagurega at the hideout, you can get it down to 140 per refill, and that will only refill one of your scouts. Now when you first start playing this game, you're going to be finding a lot of these shrines or temples that are going to provide you with knowledge points. You can also find these different parkour paths as well as coffins that will provide you with legendary equipment. All of these orange activities are going to provide you with knowledge points that are incredibly important. I'm not going to lie, it can get incredibly repetitive and pretty boring with most of these orange sites. I wish there was some variety in it that was a little bit better. But the reason you need to focus on these is because certain skills will be locked behind different knowledge ranks. Like I cannot get my final level of skills until I unlock my knowledge rank 6, which means I need to get 8 more of these knowledge points right now. So anytime you encounter one of these, just take a few seconds to go in there, do whatever it is you need to do to be able to get your knowledge point, because you're definitely going to regret not getting these, because the more knowledge points you have, the better skills you'll have access to, and your experience in the game can be a lot better. Now, one of the new things in Assassin is more integration with the Animus. We actually have these Animus anomalies now, which can provide us with these Animus points, as well as XP. You'll find various ones on the map like purging the corrupt entity, And completing these can give you access to some very special rewards. When you're in the menu, you can hold the button to be able to access the animus. And first you have different projects that you can unlock and activate. I decided to go with one for Nawe to start off with. It's essentially almost like a battle pass. You can see the different rewards here, like we have the Cerulean Flux, which is a legendary Tonto. Get access to gold, which can instantly level up all of your gear at the forge. It's basically a full set of equipment and various other things that you can unlock as well. You also get access to this kind of store credits, which we can claim. You can also find these credits, or keys as they call them, anywhere within the world as well. Now, each character has their own project that you can kind of progress through for various rewards. And then you can also go to the exchange. In here, you can exchange these keys or credits that you acquire for special armor and weapons. You can also get statues and decorations for your settlement. The one I'm saving up for right now is this legendary Kanabo, which has poison buildup, because poison in this game is actually really good. Now, one of the best parts about this game is anytime you unlock a legendary weapon or piece of armor, you also unlock its engraving. These are bonuses that can be applied to any of your weapons, and one of the main reasons that you're going to want to be upgrading your forge. Like right now, my most powerful katana is the Silent Katana of Wounding, but I do have a bunch of legendary katanas unlocked. Now, if I wanted to, I could spend money upgrading this to level 5, but you'll notice even though this katana is purple, when upgraded to level 5, it's still going to be more powerful and have different attributes than perhaps one of my legendary katanas. Each weapons are going to have different stats, like the Yami no Kage here, which is an amazing legendary weapon, has very high DPS, but only has adrenaline gain on there, and maybe we want to do a poison build, or maybe bleed. This engraving system gives you a lot of versatility. Can also get very expensive, as you see, to upgrade something from a lower level all the way up to a higher level. But instead of upgrading a weapon, what we can do is just go to the engraving process, and we can engrave the Silent Katana of Wounding, because I do want to build a bleed build, and we can apply these engravings that we have on our legendary weapons here if we want. The only unfortunate part of this is we can only have one legendary engraving since we're putting it onto an epic katana. Now, the bonus to having a legendary weapon is you can affix another legendary ability on top of it if you want to. And now we can also engrave the deal 100% damage to the attacker on deflect if we want as well. This way you can make incredibly powerful weapons. Now, if you scroll through this menu when you go to engrave something, you can actually see what engravings you don't have unlocked yet and how to unlock them. So this allows you to easily target specific bonuses that you want to get. Now, there are an absolute ton of different vendors and traders strewn throughout the map in the game. This is a great way to acquire gear, or if you're into cosmetics and decorating your hideout, ornament vendors are definitely going to be for you. Now, all of the vendors in the game work the same way, and there's a little trick here you can use to get a lot of different items. Now, this ornament vendor right here has various horses that we can acquire, saddles, and decorations for our hideout. There are a ton of different cosmetic decorations for your hideout. The customization is truly endless. Now, the interesting thing about these vendors is every season their inventory is going to completely change. You might see a refresh of a certain item if you haven't bought it yet, especially some of the rarer quality ones. But for the most part, every season you're going to be able to acquire different things. Now, there are a ton of these ornament vendors around the map, and if we check out this one's inventory, we'll notice there's some of these same items, but they also have their own too. So if you're looking for cosmetics, you can definitely go to a ton of these different ornament vendors each season to find various things to upgrade your settlement. Now, gear vendors work very much the same way. Each one is going to have their own engravings and their own weapons to choose from. Like this one doesn't have any good katanas. It's got a decent kasurigama and a nice mask. The main thing that's going to be cycling for each vendor is going to be the engravings that they offer. The weapons, from what I can tell, mostly stay the same, as well as the armor. These will refresh each season. Also, you might notice I haven't been able to find any gear for Yasuke. What you have to do is actually go to your inventory, select to play as Yasuke. Now, when we go to the vendor as Yasuke, you'll notice we have a completely different selection, different engravings, and armor and weapons specifically for Yasuke. So make sure when you go to a gear vendor, if you're looking for weapon and armor upgrades, you go as both characters because you might have better luck on one than the other. It seems to cycle each season, where one of the two characters will have more epic quality equipment. And you'll notice that you can also find equipment with this gold text. This means that that specific stat has a bonus. So this can be an amazing way for acquiring powerful gear, which then you can apply legendary engravings to. I actually got very lucky this season for Yasuke. Now, knowing we can acquire gear like this, there are a couple ways you can make some quick money. If you don't plan on using a specific weapon or piece of armor, then you can sell all of those resources. Like this oak wood, it's only used to upgrade Yasuke's ranged weapons, and since I don't use ranged weapons for Yasuke, I can sell all of these and get almost 9,000 mon. Each of these resources are going to be used to upgrade various items, but if you're going to be using everything, you might not want to sell these materials because they could come in handy in the future, but in a pinch, it could be a great way to make a lot of mon quickly.